All right, so chapter 10, section 2. In section 1, okay, we talked about how the violence and the intensity of the debate between slavery and not slavery, it's growing, okay? We have reached boiling point, okay? Violence is happening consistently, more regularly, in public, okay? It's all the time. So, today we're going to talk about two major things that help contribute and only escalate the violence, okay? Two major things today. Number 1, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Who in here has ever heard of Uncle Tom's Cabin? You got 1, 2, a few of you? Okay. Has anyone actually read it?
What is that?
It's a book that Harriet Beecher Stowe, she is a Mainer, okay, or maniac as I like to call him, okay. I've lived in Maine, I love Maine. It's one of my favorite states. Yes.
With luckily, like they make the railroads and
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. You're on the right track. So, Uncle Tom's Cabin is a book that was written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. She was inspired by a letter written from her sister. Okay, the Fugitive Slave Act has just come into play. Northerners are very upset. Her sister writes her letter, says, we gotta do something. Okay? Now, Harriet is already an accomplished author. She's already written books before. Okay? So she uses her talent and says, I'm going to write about the evils of slavery to help people understand how bad this is and how badly we need to get rid of it. Okay? So, Harriet Stowe writes Uncle Tom's Cabin. It starts as a newspaper series. Okay? So she would release a chapter in the newspaper and then it would be released on a regular basis. Now a year later, she decides to compile it all together, make a book. That is the cover, the original cover right there. Within its first year, it sold over 300,000 copies. Guys, that's a ton. Especially when we're talking early 1800s, mid 1800s. Okay? That is a lot of books. Okay? It made a huge impact. If you were a Northerner and you were on the fence and you were indifferent about the slavery situation, if you read this book, 9 times out of 10, your opinion changed, and you were now like, yeah, you know what, we got to get rid of this. This is not okay. All right? Now, Southerners did everything they could to ban the book, okay? In fact, it's still banned today in certain places, okay? This book still has some bans on it. Many Southerners claimed it was full of false information, okay? They fought it tooth and nail. They absolutely hated this book, hated Harriet Stowe for even writing it, okay? But even with that opposition, this book goes on to sell millions and millions of copies, all right? And it causes such a stir, that many historians believe this is one of the final straws that breaks the camel's back that leads us into civil war, okay? This really gets people upset, okay? You guys have ever heard of the phrase, the pen is mightier than the sword? You guys heard of that before? This is a great example of that phrase. What they're saying is, her writing down this message and it impacting people did more to influence people than any fighting did. Because fighting was already happening. There was already violence. It already existed. But nothing was changing. But this book, these words written down by pen, okay, it made a bigger impact than any violence up to this point. All right? So, the Fugitive Slave Act. Here's the second big one we're going to talk about. This really upsets some people. All right? Here's how it works. Let's say, Cameron, come on up here. Cameron, Sydney, come up here. Sydney, come on up here. Cameron, why don't you stand over here? Sydney, you're going to be right here. For this example, here's what we're going to do. Cameron, you are a slaveholder. I know that you really aren't in real life, but we're going to play make-believe. You are a slaveholder. Sydney is a free African-American living in the North. She was not your slave. But here's what I need you to do. You're going to be pretending like you're walking down the street. As soon as you see Sydney, you're going to go up to Colton is a police officer, and you're going to say, Colton, that African American right there, she used to be my slave. And Colton, you're gonna immediately arrest her and take her to jail.
Why would you say that though?
Just listen, just watch.
No,
Okay.
I'm listening.
Here we go. Cameron, go ahead. Point at her.
That one is mine.
Colton, go arrest her, take her to jail.
I got this, I'm already arrested.
Okay? Take her to jail. Okay?
Where am I going?
Very good. Just take her back to the jail.
Where's the jail?
Right there. There we go. There we go. So Sydney, have a seat. Right there. You're in jail.
Sit.
Okay? Now, guys, that's how this law worked. All somebody had to do,
Wait,
Cameron,
you missed it, we have to start over.
don't worry,
Wait,
we'll,
no,
we'll
I
do it
can't
again.
arrest
We'll
you.
do it
Let's
again. All Cameron has to do
Service charge.
is point at any African American, whether they were an actual escaped slave or maybe Sydney's been free her whole life.
That's so mean.
Okay? All she has to do is say, that one's mine. And Colton has to arrest her, has to take her to jail. Now, Cameron, you're then gonna go to a judge. Okay? Hiram, you're our judge. Come on up. Cameron's gonna testify to the judge. Here's the podium.
Can I go,
Okay.
can I go stand up?
Nope, you're right there. You're in jail. Cameron, testify to the judge. Tell him Sydney's yours.
That one's mine and she escaped.
I own her.
And Hiram, you have to say, okay, take her
Bang
back
on
to the
desk.
south.
Bang on
Sounds
the
good
desk.
to me, yeah.
Perfect.
I get paid.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened. The judges were financially incentivized, they had a financial incentive where if they agreed and sent her back, you got paid for it. So of course you're gonna say yes. Is Sydney actually her slave? No, she's been a free African American her entire life, okay? But because African Americans have no right to a trial, they cannot testify for themselves, you're defenseless. You can't do anything about it. If you were accused, you're done. And now you're going to the South to be Cameron's slave.
Oh, I thought you said
Okay.
that.
Now, let's do another situation. Sydney, come back up. You're free. Cameron, come back over here.
Free. Can I go
Colton.
next?
You're the police officer.
I volunteer as the next one.
Okay, Iverson,
Yeah, oh, wait.
come on up. Come on up.
Can I be a slave?
Okay, here's what you're gonna do. No, Iverson, you're best friends with Sydney.
So I'm a slave too?
You are not a slave. You are a free white person.
Oh, you're white. I'm white.
Okay? Cameron is still gonna accuse Sydney, okay, of being a slave. Colton, you see that Iverson is best buds, and she can help you capture Sydney, okay? And so what you're gonna do is you're going to request Iverson to say, I am commanding you, I'm ordering you to help me arrest your best friend, okay?
Arrest that slave.
Now, Iverson, what are you gonna say? She's your best friend.
Nope.
Guess what happens if Iverson says no? You take her to jail too. So now you're taking both.
Hey, can we be cellmates?
Yep, go, you're both going to jail. Okay?
Oh,
There you
no
go.
fucking chair.
Excuse me, that's mine.
Ooh, this is nice.
Now,
I'm black.
Iverson, because she refused to help, okay,
Oh no.
is immediately in jail. Does she become a slave? No, she does not, but she does serve jail time.
Did white people become slaves?
Do I stay in jail
Not very
forever
common, okay? Sydney, you're still going to the South. You're gonna become a slave.
What the heck?
But if you refuse to help, if an officer said you have to help me, you had to say yes. If you did not, you're going to jail. Does that sound fair to you guys?
then? Where I'm at.
Okay? All right, go ahead and find your seats. Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
Can I stay here?
No, you need to
I
go
wanna
back
be
to
in
your
jail.
seats. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now, guys, this is how this act worked. Okay? And this upsets the Northerners. Most of these Northerners are against it. They're abolitionists. Okay? And they don't want to help. And now they're being arrested if they refuse to help. And it's legal. Okay? And obviously a lot of free African Americans are being accused of escaped slavery even when they were free their entire lives. And now they're being put into bondage. This is not going well. This causes serious, serious problems. Okay? The cries of civil disobedience, unjust laws exist, became their battle cry. All right? Many Northerners justified disobeying laws on moral grounds. They said we need to fight, we need to resist. Okay? It becomes frequent, public, and violent. Those are three things you do not want to happen if you want to avoid a civil war. You do not want violence and resistance to happen frequently. You don't want to have it happen publicly, and you definitely don't want it to get violent. But those three things were happening every single day, constantly. Okay? Now, while this is all going on, there is an underground network called the Underground Railroad. Okay? It was formed in the early 1830s. There is evidence to suggest that it was even formed earlier than that. Okay? Now, what the railroad is, it's a combined effort of both white and black Americans working together to free African Americans from slavery. All right? If you were a member of the Underground Railroad, you were called a conductor. Those who are helping people escape, okay, you are a conductor. The people who are escaping are called passengers, okay? And then there were station masters, and those station masters had safe houses, okay? So your conductor would take the passengers, get to a safe house where there's a station master. They would feed you, they would clothe you, they would do everything they can to help you get north as fast as possible, okay? And that's how it worked. Now, the most famous conductor is this lady right here. Her name is Harriet Tubman. She is an escaped slave herself. Okay? She escaped slavery. Now, I can tell you this. If you were an escaped slave and you made it to the north and you were successful getting there, you never went back to the south. That is a death sentence. That is an easy death sentence to either you're going to be killed or put right back into slavery. Now, when Harriet got free, she said, you know what? I need every single African American to experience this. Freedom. What is freedom like? Okay? She goes back to the South 19 times to help free people. Okay? She is never caught. She is successful in getting everyone that she got. Everyone made it out. If she helped you, she had a 100% success rate of getting you out. Okay? She was nicknamed Moses of her people. Now, the reason for that, we know Moses and the Israelites, they were in slavery. Moses freed them from the Egyptians. Okay? She was nicknamed Moses for her people because of how successful she was. The South hated her. She was on their #1 most wanted list. There was a bounty on her head. There was people out searching for her. She was never found. Over 19 trips into the South. Guys, that's to never be caught, to never lose a passenger. That's incredible. Okay? She's an extremely brave and confident woman that helped hundreds of black men and women escape slavery. All right? Now here's a map of the Underground Railroad. We see here this smaller map is where Harriet Tubman escaped from Maryland and Virginia. You're heading to Canada. Why do you head to Canada? Because England or Britain owns Canada and they've banned slavery at this point. So if you get to Canada, you're good to go. Okay? Now if you look at this big map showing you're either going to Canada, but if you're down here, you're headed to Mexico. Once again, Mexico had banned slavery. So if you make it to Mexico, you're good to go. Other people would escape to the west because over here there's not a lot of people yet. So it's pretty easy to get out and stay out at that point. Remember when we played the Oregon Trail game, we came across a few escaped slaves. It was common for them to escape that way as well. Just get out of there, okay? This is a pretty amazing network, guys. It never was official. It never had like a board of directors. People just worked together, okay? And they found people who would help each other out. And when they were successful in getting thousands upon thousands of slaves to freedom, okay? And that's where we're going to go into now. We're going to watch a couple videos that explain a couple things in more detail. But, and we'll go from there. I'm just going to stop the recording now because I don't need to record the video.